What was the stupidest thing you did as a child? I was 6 and my brother was 9. We grew up in the country and enjoyed playing in the mud. We would take the hose and make a mud pit out back and just be redneck kids. We got home from school one day and saw a huge mud pit out back. We immediately ran out there in our school clothes and started going crazy in it. Running and diving, throwing it at each other, rolling all around. While our mom walks out and her jaw completely drops. She screams at us to take all of our clothes off and get in the carport. She hoses us down with super cold hose water, and we thought she was mad that we had been playing the mud in our school clothes. We then go inside and get in the tub, and she is furiously scrubbing us down. We had mud all in our ears and under our fingernails. It was everywhere. We couldn't understand why she was so mad though. We had done this many times before. Once we were cleaned up, she got on the phone to our dad. She said someone needed to come out right away. The septic tank was busted. My best friend lived a few houses down the street from me when we were kids. She got mad at her mom one day and decided to run away from home. So I went with her, because she's my best friend and you don't let your best friend run away alone. We were not old enough to cross the street by ourselves, so we ran away by circling the block several times. Her parents never knew we were gone. Tried to climb a telephone pole. Couldn't reach the metal handles, so just grabbed the sides of the pole and tried to pull myself up. Instead, I dragged my hands down the side of the wood. Spent the next 2 hours having hundreds of small splinters removed from my palms. Edit. TLDR grabbed some wood, got handfuls of little pricks. We had a big flagpole in our front yard, and I was holding it with one hand and just running around it in circles. When I stopped, I looked up, and I didn't comprehend that I was dizzy. I just thought that the flagpole was swaying like crazy and about to fall over. I started squeezing it with all my might and screaming bloody murder. I didn't want to get in trouble, and I didn't want the pole to fall on our house or knock over the tree next to it. After what seemed like screaming forever, my dad came running out and started laughing his ass off. I still wouldn't let go because I didn't believe that it was okay. Finally, he grabbed it and said it was okay for me to let go, so I did. Crisis averted. I just think it's funny that little 5-year-old me thought that I was capable of holding up a 30-foot pole by myself. Playing iToy on my PS2 was too short to reach the camera, so I got myself an office chair with wheels to stand on. Needless to say, the chair rolled off and I fell off and hit my chin on another chair and bit off a piece of my tongue, blood everywhere. Found a tray of ice cubes in the freezer, couldn't get them out of the tray, so I just licked the tray. Tongue got stuck, didn't know what to do, so I just ripped it off. Walked upstairs embarrassed and covered in blood. Probably looked like a zombie or something. Trying to find my parents. Playing The Floor is Lava at home and jumping between chairs in the living room. I decided to be a daredevil and jump from one chair to the sofa. It was a pretty big jump for a 6-year-old. I didn't make the jump, hit my chin on the sofa and bit off a piece of my tongue. Blood everywhere. Sometimes I wonder if my tongue should be significantly longer than it is now. When I was about 5 years old, I bought a toy plastic gun. It fired darts that stuck to the window. It also had little plastic rounds that my dad tested and told me specifically not to use. I looked at the plastic bullets and looked at the gun and thought, these could not possibly fit in that. The panic that then followed when I realized my dad would be mad that I had done exactly what he had told me not to do. I looked in the barrel to see if the plastic bullet was in there, but I couldn't see it. I then came up with a brilliant solution. I shot myself in the eye. TLDR played Russian roulette when I was 5. Edit. Autocorrect. I snorted a Coca-Cola. I overheard my mother talking to my father about her friend. Apparently her friend had started snorting cocaine again, and all my mom said was she's snorting coke again. Little old me is wondering why anybody would snort coke, so I want to see what the big deal was. Cut to me going in the fridge, sticking a straw in a can of coke, and snorting that shit up my nose. It burned like hell, and I couldn't smell for the next week. I've never been big on naps, so during nap time at preschool, I would just lie in my cot wide awake looking around and being bored. One day during nap time, I noticed some playground gravel on the floor next to my cot. Picked it up and started playing with it, then decided to put it in my ear. Immediately panicked and tried to dig it out, but only managed to push it farther in. Had to go to the doctor to get it removed. I also drank Bactine, an antiseptic, once and had to go have my stomach pumped. My mom said I used to run out of the bathtub naked and giggling while making her chase after me. She told me to stop or I would get hurt. One day I ran out and tried to turn a corner, slipped on the hardwood floors, and fell into the cat litter box. I was covered in cat shit and litter and crying because it was so awful. My cat was not amused. There's also a scar underneath my eyebrow that you can't see, but you can feel it. No one in my family knows how I got it, or when I would have busted my face open. But it's there. My father was a pothead and worked for a place that would regularly piss test him. Luckily for him, he knew one of the guys in charge and would get a heads up a day or two before the urinalysis. To try and pass the test, he would drink a shit ton of vinegar and water. Little tiny 4-year-old me saw Daddy drinking from a jug all the time and thought, hey, Dad usually drinks soda, and soda is great, so that must be really great, and took a big swig. I still hate pickles and vinaigrettes and anything made with vinegar almost 3 decades later. I took a dump in a hollowed-out tree stump in my front yard when I was 7. Neighbors called the police. It was hilarious to me then, and it still is now. Edit. For those wondering why they called the police, I think it was less of them calling the police on a 7-year-old, and more of the fact they were concerned about the half-naked child pooping in a tree stump in plain sight, and thought it was worth having the police checking on my home life. I came from a very normal family, though. My mom didn't find it as funny as I did. This was 17 years ago. When I was a toddler, I loved corn. I couldn't get enough of it. So one day my dad had left some corn on the cob out on the counter while he was lighting the grill. Since I was too short to reach the corn, but I was completely determined to get it, I decided it would be a good idea to use the dishwasher as a kind of makeshift staircase. Came me struggling to open the dishwasher and proceeding to try to climb it. Well, during my climb, my tiny toddler foot got stuck in the top rack of my staircase. When my dad came back inside, he was greeted by his child stuck in the dishwasher and stretching as much as he could trying to reach the corn he wanted so badly. I was playing The Floor is Lava and ran out of pillows to step on. So I found these weird, big discs on my mom's room and spread them all over the carpet so I could jump from disc to disc. My mom got home hours later and freaked out. I had broken every one of her records she had collected throughout her life. I'm surprised I'm still alive today after that incident. When I was waiting for the bus one afternoon, I was homeschooled and waiting for a friend to get off the bus. I decided it would be a good idea to charge at the kids coming off the bus with a large stick. Not really a stick, but more like a small and pointy log, maybe about the size and shape of a lance. I scared the living fuck out of all the other kids and had several parents talk to me about how fucking stupid and dangerous that was. Edit. Also the time when I tripped on a shirt or something and smashed my mouth against the bedpost. Clean your damn room, kids. Discovered porn around puberty. Ordered off TV every day after school before parents got home. Did that for months because young and stupid. One day mom asked why their bill is outrageously expensive and inside my stomach drops. Being a girl with an older brother, I blame it on him. She believes me, but for a year I felt so guilty and it was eating me up inside I just had to tell her. I bawled my eyes out and confessed. She laughed and said, I knew that the whole time. I wrote every bad word I knew on the side of the Lego container. Pig and bum were pretty high on the list. I had a sheltered childhood. Actually, I didn't. My dad used to fix cars in the shed and lose it occasionally, screaming fuck at the top of his lungs. Maybe I thought that was a regular word. My brother and I were pretty young, 5 to 7 years old range, and lived out at a farmhouse with a barn, and there was a big hill in our backyard. We wanted to go sledding one day after a big snow and canceled school, and we didn't have any sleds. No problem, though, because we had seen people go sledding on tubes all the time, and we had a big truck tire in the barn just waiting to be pushed up the hill and rode. Keeping in mind a couple kindergarten first graders were the only ones moving this motherfucking tire. It took us several hours with breaks to get this tire out of the barn and through the several inches of fresh powder and up the hill. It was going to be so worth it, though, with the brisk air flowing through our hair as we flew down the hill. We finally got the tire up to the top of the hill feeling victorious. We jumped on the tire to slide down the hill, and we just sunk further into the snow. Obviously, worst snow day ever. TLDR, people sled on tubes, not 40-pound tires. When I was around 4, I decided to cut the lamp cord with my child safety scissors. I ended up cutting through it, and I then touched my thumb to the exposed wires. All I remember is waking up with my thumb bandaged and in a birdcage thingy. When I was 6, I had the bright idea to jump off the top of a play castle. The stupid part was I had a Donatello TMNT staff in my mouth. I had to have surgery and couldn't eat solid food for a long time. Somehow, I am still alive and breathing at 25 years of age. I locked my brother and the babysitter out of the house and cut my hair while making eye contact with them. We lived in the hood, so our screen door had no screen, but was kind of like having bars on the windows, only on the front door. I went and got the scissors and cut my bangs down to the scalp. I stood just out of reach while they tried to reach in and grab me and screamed at me to open the door. My mom came home and beat me. I have a picture on Santa's lap with the hairdo. Despite my mom telling me that cats are evil, I tried to pet the cat of a family friend and got a bite for my trouble. To cover up this fact, I started wearing a Captain Hook hand constantly, even when bathing. While the psychologist my parents asked about it, both my brother and I are on the spectrum, so already a regular thing. Said it was a phase. After a month or two, my parents decided enough is enough and pulled it off, to find that the hand had become infected and swollen into the shape of the hand cover, the black dome part, and came out with the same sound as cranberry sauce coming out of a can. Edit. Honestly, the most surprising part is that I still remembered the why after they got the hook off instead of forgetting at some point and just assuming it was the order of things. This is my mom, this is my dad, this is my hand, and this is my hook. I ate pretty much anything I could get my hands on and had to be taken to the hospital basically on a monthly basis. Any kind of dirt or plant. Sure, some eye drops that I had to scale a cabinet to get to. Oh yeah, whatever raw meat was defrosting on the counter that night. Duh. All of my grandfather's heart pills? Yeah, that was a big one. Ugh. I tried to die, seriously maim myself 3 separate times before I was 2. Before I could walk while my dad was vacuuming, I found a stray nail on the floor, stuck it into an open outlet, then evidently stuck my nose onto it, scorching both my hand and my face. While I was learning to walk, I broke away from my mother while in one of those rolling baby walkers and ran for it full speed, careening off of our raised porch and skidding face first onto our concrete driveway. After I had learned to walk, I dropped my shark toy into the pool and decided I would try to retrieve it, which resulted in me falling face first into the water. I promised my parents were not in any way negligent. I was just an idiot, and all of these things happened whenever they made the mistake of turning their backs from me for like 2 seconds. I climbed a horse chestnut tree, and at around 30 feet up, I felt the unrelenting urge to go number 2. So I climbed across a branch, set myself in position, and let it fly. Upon impact, it formed into an oddly satisfying shape. Not embarrassing if nobody saw it, but the tree is roadside and my grandmother had caught the end of the ordeal as she drove by. 20 years later, it's still the story my family amused themselves to. A girl I used to like left my middle school in the middle of 7th grade. She came back to visit for a day in 8th grade, and she looked like fire with legs. She was so hot. I knew I had to talk to her, because we ended things on a weird note. So I prepared myself, checked my breath, picked out the fro a little bit, walked up, and screamed in her face. -4. Played a rousing game of hangman, not knowing it was a word game. Got up on a chair with a noose with my cousins. Aunt called us in for dinner. Cousin hit chair running by. Yup, almost killed myself if my one toe was not still on the chair. Aunt hid the rope burn on my neck from my mom by making me wear a turtleneck in July in TX. I read Life, the Universe, and Everything by Douglas Adams when I was about 10. I took its advice on flying a bit too literally. There's an art, it says, or rather a knack to flying. The knack lies in learning how to throw yourself at the ground and miss. Pick a nice day. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy suggests and try it. The first part is easy. All it requires is simply the ability to throw yourself forward with all your weight and the willingness not to mind that it's going to hurt. That is, it's going to hurt if you fail to miss the ground. Most people fail to miss the ground, and if they are really trying properly, the likelihood is that they will fail to miss it fairly hard. Clearly, it is the second part, the missing, which presents the difficulties. I had more than the suggested amount of bruises, scrapes, and broken bones as a child. Please consider subscribing if you enjoyed. Love.